Well, would you look at these numbers right here? Would you look at that? It's become undeniable, ladies and gentlemen. The tide has turned by remarkable amounts. A majority of NASCAR fans, I now believe it is safe to say, want a return to a full season format, which was not the case as recently as last year. And I'll get into those numbers in a moment. Now, I've seen so many of these polls pop up on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. I ran one myself, and the numbers were even more lopsided than that. Now, to be fair, I have a much smaller audience, and I am aggressively pro full season, anti-playoff format. But let's look at Toby Christie's poll here. With a few days left to run, but now stabilized around 60% of fans of a much larger sample size, 6,600 votes, full season format winning out clearly over every other option. That includes the 10-race chase, which roughly has a quarter of the fan base behind it, the new proposed 3-3-4 format, the 4-race championship round, roughly 10%, and only 3.2% of fans want to continue what we're doing now. 97% almost want some sort of change. Is anybody at NASCAR looking at these numbers? They have to be, right? We know we're getting some sort of change, and almost certain change is coming. We just don't know what it's going to be yet. But then you look at the three options here. Take that 3.2% out. The consensus has never been more clear. And I say that because of polls that were run just last year. This is Jeff Gluck, an even larger audience than Toby Christie. So a very good sample size here, 25,788 votes on this poll. What is your preferred NASCAR playoff format? Even at this time last year, right after Joey Logano had just won the championship with a 17.1 average finish, 1 out of 6, 16% of fans wanted the elimination format. Compare that to 3.2% now, that's 1 out of 33. 33 race fans, only one of them wants to do what we're doing now. Now, to be completely fair, we've had a fourth option pop up, obviously this year, changing the format from a 1-race finale to a 4-race finale. So you have to take that into account, I suppose. But even if you lump those two options together, the number has still dipped as of this season. But here's what's really telling. Just under half the fan base, 45%, still wanted some sort of a playoff system in the form of the original 10-race chase. And I will even admit, this time last year, I was willing to compromise. If you would have handed me a contract and said, you can sign this and we will bring back the original chase tomorrow, I would have signed it in a heartbeat, because I would have thought at the time that there was no way we were going to get the full season. The full season was just a pipe dream. There's no way they're going to go all the way back to that, right? It's been 20 years. Maybe other fans felt the same way. Maybe other fans were feeling realistic here and just wanted to vote for an option that they thought was viable. Maybe they actually preferred the 10-race chase. I don't know. But even this time last year, it was a sizable minority, but it was still a minority of fans wanted a full season. Only 39%. Only 39%. That number has now jumped 20, 21 points or so to almost 60% of the fan base. And again, it's not just Toby's poll. I've seen this consistently on almost every poll that's been run. Here is what's really telling. You think the tide has shifted in just the last year. Go back 5 years. And keep in mind, this was the year that Kevin Harvick didn't even make the championship 4, despite being clearly far and away the best driver of the season. The most dominant driver of the season, by every metric. There's no conceivable reason he should not have, at minimum, been in the championship 4. Probably should have been the champion under any format except the one we currently use. Even then, maybe it was because Chase Elliott had just won, I don't know. But taking all of that into account, these were the numbers. Half the fan base was still firmly behind the elimination format. Just under a third of the fan base wanting a return to season long. Now, I would assume that the reason for the massive jump to the chase format was because fans from the elimination format started to realize, okay, yeah, the one race deal isn't working, and then jumped from elimination to chase, not to season long. That's why season long only jumped about 7 percentage points from 20 to 24. But from 24 to 25, the jump has been astronomical. The tide has turned. You cannot deny it anymore. For the first time, probably ever, if we're being honest, the momentum is firmly with the full season points side of the argument. This is a moment in history. This may sound dramatic. This may sound like I'm making too big a deal out of this, but I truly believe this is one of the most consequential off seasons in the history of NASCAR. And it's not just because of the lawsuit. It is because of the decision that is in front of us that will impact how we crown our champions for years to come. As Kamikaze Games said, we stand on the precipice. It must be 36. And I've said all week, all of the last 2 weeks really, I'm still willing to compromise on certain issues. I would get rid of stages. But I would take stages without cautions. I would get rid of overtime. But I would take, again, Toby's proposal, only do it if second place is within 1 second of a leader. I would take those things. I would accept those terms and conditions. One miracle at a time. I understand that you can't snap your finger and go back to 2003 overnight. But I cannot allow myself to continue to compromise here, especially when these are the numbers that I'm seeing, especially with what I'm seeing on track across all 3 series this past weekend at Phoenix, and especially when the genuine outrage from the fan base is at an all-time high. When we are questioning whether or not we have legitimate champions. Again, I'm not doing that. This is not on Kyle Larson. This is not on Joey Logano last year. This isn't on anybody. More power to the drivers that take advantage of the rules that are in front of everybody, the same for everybody. You're going to hear plenty of people call them illegitimate champions. I'm not one of them. But when you have people who are saying that in your fan base, and it's not just people on the fringes, smart, well-meaning race fans who have these feelings and share these feelings and are making these feelings known, that is a problem for your sport. The tide has turned. It's time to listen to what is now, undeniably, a clear majority.